Thanks a lot, guys. I'm Anant, founder of CodeKarma. And before we go and talk about what is CodeKarma, let's talk about what is AI readiness for enterprises, right? So today, all enterprises want to have some kind of an AI, and according to all enterprises, AI readiness means buying a lot of tools, right? But the problem is you can buy like a Cursor, Windsurf, all kinds of tools that you want to be AI ready in your company. But the problem is tools are only as good as the context that you provide to the tools because context is king, right? Now, where does the context reside for an AI company, for an enterprise company, right? Does it reside in docs? Does it reside in Jira, the brains of the developers, in code, in logs, in dashboard? Yes, it probably resides in everywhere, but it's only partial, right? The real context of how your application is actually working is in your production. Like your production never ever lies, right? Now, the problem with production is getting context from production data is very, very noisy because the way in which we get context from production data is through logs, metrics, traces, and all of that. And they are probably fragments of truth. Your logs are too noisy, your traces are sampled, right? And they're high volume, they have very low meaning and all of that, right? And observability was actually built for humans to understand for firefighting. But what we're actually doing is we're using it to AI, giving it to AI to reason about systems. And AI cannot work on the sparse data, right? So what we decided to do is we said, we need to create an AI native context about how your systems are actually working, right? And these contexts needs to be dense, these needs to be high fidelity, they need to give you deterministic insights, and they need to be better shaped, right? So that AI can consume and reason over it. And that's where we build CodeKarma, right? Now, what does CodeKarma do? It brings production context in a deterministic way to actually understand how your systems are working. We look at every single call, every flow. There is absolutely no sampling. We'll tell you exactly how your systems are working. So if you're doing a legacy modernization, if you want to understand how an old system is working, if you want to do an SRE kind of a job to identify where the problem is, use CodeKarma. And we bring you production insights right into your IDEs like Copilots and all the agents and all of them, right? We'll do a quick demo of what CodeKarma can do, right? So right now we have a Spring Boot service that is running in my production service, and we have a bunch of APIs in the Spring Boot service. There is this API called Get All Orders, Get Order by ID, and Get Recommendations. And by the way, this is Java. So now, if you want to identify how often this API is getting called, you'll probably go to a Prometheus dashboard or a New Relic dashboard and plot it somewhere and then find out what it is. With CodeKarma, you get an insight right here. This is 153 QPM, and this is the current throughput of this API running on my production server right now. And this is right now. If you click over here, you'll also get the latency, the error rate in the last 60 minutes, 90 minutes. You can go about in time and you can do all the graphing capabilities right within your IDE, right? We have a bunch of insights. I'm not going to go through all of them. It's not just your API methods. We'll also tell you every single method in your code, how often it's getting executed. We also give you things like error rates. If a method throws an error, how often does a method throw an error? We also tell you things like dead code, because if a code is never ever executed in production, if you're going to spend time in understanding, debugging, maintaining it, it's good. And legacy systems suffer with this problem because dead code is all over the place and you waste time. We tell you right here that this code is dead. And when I say it's dead, it means it is never ever getting executed in production whatsoever, right? We also give you insights such as CPU utilization. For example, this method in production is actually taking 2% of CPU, which you can go and optimize. But the best part is we made this AI ready. So you can just open up your favorite tool like Windsurf or Cursor or whatever, and you can say, optimize all my CPU intensive methods, right? So you didn't even open the code. You don't even need to go through code. You can just go to Windsurf. Now, this guy basically connects to my MCP server. Now, you need to understand something where LLMs can never, ever understand some code is hot because the code used a CPU, not because it was written badly. It was because of a production pattern. So imagine there's a function with just this string.lowercase and it gets called 1,000,000 times. That's going to take a lot of CPU compared to it getting called once. So you cannot statically analyze production code to understand CPU. You need to take CodeKarma insights and then it overlays it on the code and tells you what it is, right? Now, this is what is there within a method. We can also show you how your distributed systems are working. So if you look at this, these are your different services which are talking to each other. We'll take, and this is based on Game of Thrones. So if you're Game of Thrones fans, you might like this. Now, you see this API called Search Movies for Name, which is basically calling the system in Tyrion. And by the way, we also trace calls through Kafka and all of those. Now, if you open it up, you see that the Search Movies for Name is actually calling this Reviews for Movie API in Tyrion. Now, you go inside Reviews for Movie, and then you see that the Reviews for Movie API is doing a MongoDB find and a MongoDB aggregate. This is your exact call flow. This is not a trace. This is not a sample. This is exactly what is happening on your code. And what you can do is you can say show metrics. So when you say show metrics, you see that there's a 766 QPM coming on Winterfell. which is translating to 766 QPM on Tyrion, which means that 1:1 call ratio. And 766 QPM translate to 76 QPM on find, which means only 1/10 of the call lands on find, and 1.5K QPM, which means there's a 2x call on aggregate, right? Now, errors are so easy to identify because there's a 9.5% error rate on Winterfell, which is because of this 9% on Tyrion, and which is because of the 4.8% on aggregate. So you actually did an RCA across 3 systems and 1 database in under 5 minutes. And you don't even need to open your dashboard. What you can do is you can go to Claude and say, can you tell me the status of my Winterfell system and if things are okay on my graph, right? So you just go open Claude, and now the advantage with this model is that it is not a thinking model because all the data has already been aggregated, compiled, and given by CodeKarma. And all that Claude does is just basically takes the response in a way that the LLM can understand and optimize it and shows it on the UI. So it actually said, hey, the search movies by name is the problem, and this is the reason for the problem, right? The Tyrion reviews for movies is your problem, right? So going back, AI readiness is actually context readiness. It's not just buying tools. And if you cannot ground your AI on noisy, partial, and stale data. You need absolutely reliable data so that your AI can actually give you insights, right? So that's CodeKarma. Canis, we are with a lot of enterprise companies at this point in time. So if you are an enterprise leader who's trying to do AI readiness, you're trying to optimize legacy systems, feel free to reach out to us. Thanks a lot.
Great. Thanks, Anand.